This is Gemara Menachos, Daf Tes Vav, and we're holding in the bottom of Yudalid Amid Beis, continuing the discussion of Chalois, whether it's the Chalois of the Shtei Alechem of Shavuos fame, whether it's the Chalois of the Lechem Aponim. We continue discussing different psulim. We spoke about pigel. We spoke about the machshavos zarais that one could have at those times of being makar of these karbanos and their accompanying karbanos. And now we go to other cases involving, says the Mishnah on the bottom of Yudalim Adbis, nitmais achas min achalois or achas min asadarim. If one of the chalois of the Shtei Alechem of Shavuos, if one of the arrangements of the Lechem Abanim are what nitmeis, become a tamei. Rav Yehuda Mer Shneim Yatul Beis HaSreifa, says Rav Yehuda, everything goes lebeis hasreifa. Why? She'ein karban sibor chalak. We cannot split a karban sibor. Whereas v'chachamim oimrim hatame b'tomasai v'hatar yi'achel. Excuse me, hatame b'tomasai v'hatar yi'achel. The one that's tamei is tamei, but the one that is tar is still able to be consumed. A machlekes chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda, what we do with the other bread, the other arrangement of loaves of Shtei Alechem. Says the Gemara, what exactly is this machlekes? Amar Rav Elazar. Says Rav Elazar, machlekes lifnei zrika. The machlekes is before the zrika, but we're talking about lechem. Oh, the accompanying carbon, as we've been speaking about. The Shtei Alechem comes together with the kvasim. The lechem apanim comes together with the levina. So if the Shtei Alechem, if the lechem apanim became tamei, lifnei azrika, before the zrika of the dam of the kvasim, or before the levina were brought, that's the machlekes of Yehuda and the Chachamim, whether the other arrangement, the other loaf has to be burnt as well. But if the carbon already started, the zrika of the kvasim have been done, the bringing of the levina has been done, divrei hakol, hatame b'timasar v'atar yiachel, then Rav Yehuda is going to be maskim that both of them are tamei. Says the Gemara of Leizrika b'may pligi. So what exactly is the machlekes of Leizrika? Amar Rabba b'tzitz miratz al achilos kameh pligi. Says Rabba, you know what's going on over here? This is really a global machlekes. This is a global machlekes with regard to whether is the tzitz that the Kohen Gadol wears, is it miratze? Does it work? Does it create acceptance for part of the carbon that are eaten? Let's see the Gemara and then we're going to explain. As we turn over to the Tzvav and Aleph, Rabbanan Savri, Rabbanan hold indeed, tzitz meratz al achilois. Say the Chachamim, the tzitz is indeed meratz al achilois. Whereas if Yehuda Savar Eina tzitz meratz al achilois. Let's see the top Rashi. Rashi articulates, Rabbanan Savri tzitz meratz al tomas achilas koyahanim. If the kohanim eat something when they're tamei. Zrika shenitzuku aleim zrika mal yisa. The original zrika was the original zrika. Excuse me. The subsequent zrika, not the original zrika, because again, we're saying that the breads became tamei. Lifnei zrika, the machlekes is. And then there is the zrika. So the zrika is going to come, and zrika mal yisa umiu, ki meratze tzitzam have a carbon mal. When does the tzitz help? Aval toma loy mishtri v'achila. So that is going to be the machlekes. There's Rabbanan are going to hold that the tzitz is going to work, that the tzitz is going to come, and we're going to treat that which is tamei as if it was tar, and therefore the carbon is going to be fine. Rav Yehuda says no, the tzitz is not going to be miratzeh. Rashi says, why according to Rabbi Yehuda not? B'toma shenaga b'davar anecha l'kahanim hilkach lavi zrika malya v'lo mishrei tar. The zrika is no good. Why is the zrika no good? Because the tzitz is not miratzeh and the item became tamei. And that's why Rabbi Yehuda says there is a problem over here. This is Rav Papa's explanation. Rav Nasa comes along and asks, but what about the halacha of that which is ola, that which goes on the mizbeach? That the halacha is everyone agrees that the tzitz works for parts of the karban that go up on the mizbeach. Upligi. Even though the tzitz is miratzeh, there is a machlekes of Yehuda and the Chachamim whether the tuma of one part is going to mess up the other. As we see the Tanya Nitvachim and Abba Zichin, Rav Yehuda Omer Shneim Yasu B'Tuma Lefi She'ein Karban Tzibur Cholok. So Rav Yehuda is holding the same yesod, the Ein Karban Tzibur Cholok, that what? Lamaisa, if one of them is going to be tummy, it's going to mess up the whole thing. Whereas the Chachamim Maimrim say the Chachamim no, Hatame b'tamasai, v'atar b'tarasai. So asks the Gemara, I don't understand. We see that there's a machlaikas, even in a case that the tzitz is meratz al oilin, we still have a machlaikas. Void, and furthermore, the Gemara and Rav Papa 8 lines down. Void Amar Rav Ashi Tashema Rav Yehuda Omer teaches Rav Yehuda Afilu Shevet Echad Tameh, if one shevet is Tameh. But v'chol hashvatim are te'irin, even if just one shevet is Tameh, Yasu b'toma. What the halacha says, Rav Yehuda, they could all bring their karbanos b'toma because of that one shevet. Lefi she'ein karbanai sibur chalok. You see how far Rav Yehuda takes this yesod. The yesod that ein karban sibur is chalok zok Rav Yehuda is even if one shevet, but they're part of the whole. So if one shevet becomes tamei, says Rav Yehuda, kol hashvatim yasu b'toma because ein karban sibur chalok. V'hacha b'bayas maya tzitz v'ratze ikam. What does it mean that the tzitz is going to be marata? The tzitz is only marata when the carbon is tamei, not when the people are tamei. So what do we see? We see that Rabbi Yehuda, when he said that a carbon sibar is not chalak, has nothing to do with the din of the tzitz marata or not. V'odam Ravina, on the third kasha of Ravina. V'odam Ravina. And says Ravina again. First, we had Ravuna Breder Rav Nasal Rav Papa. That was let's highlight the different kashas. We had on the third line Ravuna Breder Rav Nasal Rav Papa. We had Va'idam Rav Ashi. Now we had Va'idam Ravina. Question number 3 comes like Ravina Va'idam Ravina Tashema. Nitmei Zachas Menachos Zachas Menasadarim. One of them become Tamei. Rav Yehuda Omer Shneim Yatsu Lebeis Asrei, for they're both burnt. Why the Vishain Garban Zivar Chalak Bechachamim Aimrim Hatami B'Tamasai V'Atari Ochel. Our Mishnah, the Machlekes of Yidin Chacham in the Mishnah, but V'im Isav, based on what we're saying, the Machlekes is of Neis Rika, like you Rav Papa said. V'im Isav L'Vishain Hatzitz Mirat Al Chilas Mi Bailei. The Mishnah missed the boat. The Mishnah should have articulated. Rav Yehuda should have said that the reason is a problem because the tzitz is not Mirat Al Chilas. So Ella Amar Rav Yechon, after 3 catches on Rav Papa, comes on Rav Yechon and he says, Limod Arachu Bepiv Shel Rav Yehuda. There's an established halacha limod in the mouth of Rav Yehuda that what? She'ein karban sibor chalak. Says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda doubles down that regardless of whether the tzitz is meratza or not, he shanu me Rabbi Isav, he learns from his Rabbeim, he has a Messiah, he has a Yisayra Kabbalah, that the halacha is that we do not split up the carbon sibor. And with that, it comes out regardless of whether the tzitz is meratza or not, Lamaisa, once part of a carbon is tamei, the entire carbon is going to be considered to be allowed to be brought bituma. Says the Mishnah, halfway down, Tezvav Amud Aleph. The Mishnah continues with the theme that we've been talking about, which is what? Which is the Shtei Alechem, the Lechem Aponim. But now we go back and we flop back to the case of the carbon that is brought together with it. And the question is, what about Machshavos Zarais at the time of bringing the accompanying carbon? So says the Mishnah, Taida mifageles es alechem. A pickle kavana by the carbon taida makes the bread into a pickle as well. V'alechem ina mifageles a taida. But a machshava pickle by the eating of the bread does not make the carbon itself pickle. Ketzad shachnes a taida. So in Shechta the Taida Lecha Mimenu Lemachar with a Kavanah to eat it tomorrow. Hiv Alechem Mefugalim, everything is pigol. But Lechem in Alechem Lemachar. If the Machshavas pigol was on the bread, then Alechem Mefugal V'Taida Ina Mifaleges Mefugalos, Shita of the Tana Kama with regarding the carbon taida. Says the Mishnah, Hakvasim of Shtei Alechem, Mifagles Alechem Alechem Mifagles Hakvasim, Keitzad. Keitzad HaSheichet Hakvasim Yishechtin the lambs, Achamim Lemachar, Hey Valechem Mefugolim, the whole thing's out the window. But if your Kavanah is Lechem Alechem Lemachar, then indeed the Lechem is Mefugol, but Kvasim ina mefugalim. The kvasim will not be mefugal because of machshava zara by the lechem. Says the Gemara, my time. What's the reason of the din in the Mishnah? If you're going to tell me Misham der Rav Kahana, what Rav Kahana? The Amar Rav Kahana minayin lelachmei taida. Shenikru taida. Where do we see that the lachmei taida, the breads of the taida, are called the taida? Shenemar v'hakra v'zevach. And it should be brought with the zevach hataida, the carbon taida chalois. So what do we see? We see that the taida is referring to the bread. Inami, iachi frakti gemara evchanami. So too, if I carrot, it should go back and forth, whether it's machshava zara by the lechem or by the carbon. Says the Gemara, "Alei kasha, it's not shver. Lechem ikri taida, taida lo ikri lechem. Elha dikatani frakti mark fas mefugalin as a lechem. The sheep, the lambs, a kavana by them does mess up the bread. Velechem infagos like kvasim. Lechem echa ashkechan dikri kvasim. Elalav ainutayim anubshat. Lechem galal taida." Says the Gemara, the bread, the lechem is golal, is a sidebar to the taida. But ve'ena taida golal, the lechem. Lechem golal de kvasim, but ve'ena kvasim golal de lechem. Says the Gemara, and Shrichi, we needed these cases to be listed twice in these two Mishnayos. The Ashmina taida, I would think, why? Because they're not intrinsically connected when it comes to the waving of a kvasim. Indeed, that's why we needed both mishnayos. We continue 8 lines from the wide lines with the shaila. If you shech the carbon taida with a kavano to eat a kzais from it, umilachma, and it's relamacher ma'u. Lif gule taida lami bayili. That what? Hashikul lami lachal lami figla mimenu milchama lami figla mimenu. I'd have to ask you about machshavas pickle by the taida. Because if you had intention to kulay melachma, it's not pegol mimena umilachma. So now the fact you're eating both of them is going to mess you up. Mibai kika mibaile. What's the shaila? Fluge lechem mi mitzdarfa taida. The shaila is when regarding the machshavas pigol by the lechem mi mitzdarfa taida lafkule lechem. Is a kavana by the taida combine to mess up the bread? Oiloi. So Amarle responds Rav. Af bizu Hu halechem mefugel v'ataydainu mefageles. V'amai. Frag the Gemara, why af bezu? What do you mean? Lema kal v'chaymer. That what? On the first white line, it could cause pickle, but itself is not. Do we say such a kal v'chaymer? There was a story with one person who planted the vineyard of his friend Simodar while the grapes were budding. And the story came to Chachamim. And what did the Chachamim say? He said, the seed is aser, but the vines are mutter. V'amai, how can you make such a split? Lema kal v'chaymer, say a kal v'chaymer, uma ha'oiser inoy nesar. Habol eser, you can't say aser v'lo aser inoy din shlotz, it's aser? Says the Gemara, no. Hachi ashta, hasam kanvos v'loif aser atayra. Over there, in the case of kalayim, what did the Torah say is aser? Kanvos v'loif. Hemp and love, similar species. You can't grow the two of them together. But shar zurayim midrabanan udasiri. Other vegetation are not straight out from the pasuk, but rather what? Other vegetation midrabanan udasiri. It's only aser midrabanan. Haidavid isura kansurabanan. Haidavid isura loy kansurabanan. However, avalahacha babayas. Lema kalva chaymer, let us say the kalva chaymer. Lashon number 1 says the Gemara, as the classical Gemara form, Vika demasni law, there are those that learned a second Lashon, kivasim, on the din of kivasim. What's the shayla? Mao. Lavlugi kvasim lo kami by there's no shayla. Hashtag kula milachem lo miflagi me'anu milchalachman mi bai. Ki kami baile. What's the shayla? Lavlugi lachem mi mitzarfi kvasim. Lavlugi lachem aloi. Is there a tzira to the two of them to say it's aser? Oiloi amrlei af bizu. Even in this case, as the Gemara, amrlei af bizu. Even in this case, apologize, I lost the place over here. Af bizu alecha mefugav akvasim einai mifaglin. So too over here, only it will be aser, but only the lechem will be a fugal, but the kvasim will not. Fragt Rav Lazar, really? Why v'amai? Lema kal v'chaymer, ma mefaglin misbagel. Ha'abali v'agav lo bigel adin shlei yisbagel. Says the Gemara, but wait, mi amrina kal v'chaymer, ki ganu do you say such a kal v'chaymer v'atanya? Ma'isa v'echad jazar, kam v'toch v'eros v'madar v'chulu. V'amai, lema kal v'chaymer, ma'aser ino neser, abali aser v'lei aser. Eino adin shlei yisaser. So why over there don't we say this kal v'chaymer? So says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Achi ashta, what's your kasha? 8 lines on the white lines. Hasam kanvos v'lof. Asra Torah shar zurayim are only midrabanan udasi. Hi David Isura kansurabanan. The David Isura kansurabanan. So because it's a kenas rabbanan, it only starts if there's an iser. Avlachale makal v'chaymer. But by us we should say a kal v'chaymer. So says the Gemara, that what? What's the kal v'chaymer? Excuse me. Avlachale makal v'chaymer demasla toy de koshkin akvasim demasla akvasim. Kvasim udis kukun zela tenufa. Aval toy de kukun zela tenufa loy. The din should certainly be true by the taida, and that ends off this shtickle Gemara. And finally, Rav Abba Zuta Baile Hachi, a similar shayla as you're going to see. By mini Rav Lazim Rav Shechel Zakaves, Lachzayz Chaver Lamachar Mau, Chaver Keves Mashma, Vloy Miflagal, Oidoma Lechem Mashma Vagale. Omerle, I'll bring your riot to need to Ashach and Echem and Akvasim Lachem Mimenu Lemachar, Who Pego Chaver Kasher, Palechel Bechaver Lemachar, Shneim Kashim. So what do we see from this contrast? Alma Chaver Keves Mashma. Still, if it says the Gemara, guess what? No raya. You know why? Because the parish V'amar chaveroi kevesh. Maybe the case is where the person specifically said v'amar chaveroi kevesh, and not really anything that goes with it. And we'll pick it up from the Mishnah, B'siyata Tishmai.